Is there something you think about New Orleans or that region that sort of facilitates that, where it's relatively low key and people, families stick together and people don't mind? Johnny Vodakovich doesn't mind sort of getting behind a punk kid on a gig like that.
Yeah. Maybe that we're isolated. Maybe that it originally, you got to cross water to get there. It's basically an island. Maybe that does something. Being a poor town, so that you have people coming from all over the world, and always has been. Honestly, I think the Caribbean, Spanish, and the French influence, being stronger than just the British, normal American invasion, I think that helps. It created a different type of competition. I think harsh conditions made people really needing each other. And we still act that way, I think, in the community. Like most, I think, strifing communities, you have to take care of each other. So maybe that, or maybe just a good food.
I want to come back to that maybe in a minute. Luther, as a born and bred New Englander, a lot of times I think I romanticize a lot of what you grew up with, like Junior Kimbrough's Juke Joint, or Otha Turner, the goat, fife and drum goat barbecue. I mean, can you talk a little bit about, and I was like, that would be amazing, except I'm not sure what I would think about the goat. Maybe it's, how was the goat? Was the goat pretty good?
I tried it once to stay away from it. But my goat thing was, I would always go Friday morning for the goat sacrificial slaughter to prepare the goat. That was my trip. As a Capricorn and as a youthful guy hanging around with the Zen master, Other he was 94 when he died. He was a self-sufficient farmer. First generation bluesman. He played a homemade bamboo cane fife with marching drums. It was very New Orleans-esque.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, like the Mississippi River, Memphis, with the Mississippi Delta and the Mississippi Hill Country and all the rural areas. Memphis is like the home of the blues and rock and roll. And then right down the Mississippi River, it's so similar, but the music's so different. But it was all family bands. Junior Kimbrough had a juke joint, R.L. Burnside. The best parties were R.L. Burnside's wife's birthday, Big Mama's birthday parties. That was the best party in town. We say, if you got extension cords coming out of the windows into the yard that you're gonna be juking that night. But yeah, it was amazing. I grew up with my father and his friends, and at that point, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, the Memphis, you had Al Green, you had Teenie Hodges, you had all the Sun players were still alive, you had the Stax guys, the gospel talent in Memphis was amazing. So, and Dad taught us, okay, at first he didn't want us to be musicians, but then he saw we had to be musicians, that we wanted to be musicians. So he said, okay, I'm gonna teach you. So it was the summer, and he booked a show at the end of the summer, Jim Dickinson and the Hardly Can Playboys. And he woke us up early every morning that summer, and he had us set up in the front room, and he would rehearse us, and he was teaching us his repertoire. And his repertoire was like a Texas shuffle, R&B ballad, a Chuck Berry rock and roll, a Bo Diddley, a jazz song. His repertoire was just roots music that he liked. But he was also training us to play all these different types of American music. But it was harsh, man, because we were young. I mean, I was like 15, staying up late, and he'd wake us up and he'd just yell at us, like, "You're out of tune. If you're out of tune, it's worthless." Or "You're dragging," playing his piano. "You're dragging." But he taught us.
There's two terms somebody taught me a long time ago. You can be a musician or you can be a music man. A music man plays the weddings and the birthdays and the Sundays and the events. A musician's playing for himself and his other musician friends. A music man, he just, hey, we need some music. 1 minute. And they pick up the fiddle or they just play. That's what they do.
Wow.
So if you can balance those two, maybe.
Well, that's like...
You asked about young musicians, though, but I would have to say that roots music, and in this, I love the term roots music. And like American roots music, my new trip is like, American roots music is a tree, and from every limb, it bears, a different flavor of fruit, you know what I mean? And the Grateful Dead are, to bring it full circle to where we are, the Grateful Dead are a great example of that, Yeah. But be it playing with Junior Kimbrough or Monk Boudreaux or George Porter or Johnny or Phil Lesh or anybody, for young kids, I would say, go find older cats and play with them, because it's a tradition, it's a craft, and it's best passed down hand to hand, face to face, man to man, you know? It's like being a carpenter or something. It's like, it really helps to be that young guy playing, you know, and getting berated. And or the worst in Mississippi was like, they would let you sit in, but if you cleared the dance floor, you're done. And that was all they had to say. It was like, there's your lesson. Like, if they stop dancing, you're done. So.
You were talking about your dad's production work, and I know that early on you were talking about sort of your earliest rock bands, like you were into the SST sort of scene, and you know, when your dad produced "Pleased to Meet Me," Replacements album, you're on, you're there on "Shootin' Dirty Pool." Can you talk about how, which is amazing to me? Can you talk about what that was like, how that came about, what the experience?
It was awesome. That was another life changer for me, because I loved Black Flag. When I was 12, I found Black Flag, and to me, you know, I grew up with Jimi Hendrix, Allman Brothers, classic rock, 50s rock, blues, everything, my dad's whole trip. But when I found Black Flag, I was like, wow, now this is for me. It was a single, and I asked Dad to teach me, help me learn it, and he's like, well, this makes no sense. What is this crap? What is this? I can't believe this. But so that even reinforced I was like, yes, this is awesome. But then a couple of years later, his production career picked back up, and he ended up producing the Replacements. And for me, I was really practicing guitar a lot at that time. And so I had access to the demos, the rough mixes. So while he was in Memphis working on the record, I was at home studying Westerberg's songwriting craft at age 13 and 14, which is, that's the time. So anyway, I was also, you know, just playing a lot of silly guitar noises, you know, and Dad tried to hustle me on there, and they were nice enough to let me play. And you know, we did. It's like an animated guitar story, you know. Like Dad had this whole script in his mind about a fight in a pool room, breaking out, and there's laughter, and there's a cat call whistle, and so that was his whole trip. And they were so sweet. Westerberg was so sweet. And I'm still friends with Tommy Stinson. We're making a record right now. I'm gonna be at his house on Monday, working, you know. Once again, so many of my father's relationships, G-Love's another one, you know, we plan to collaborate in the future. So many of these relationships come from an extension of my dad's career, and that makes me so happy. But it was awesome, man. The Replacements I loved them. And I'm so glad they're back together.